This is Willpower.
Wonderful. I'm thrilled to bring you today on the Willpower Podcast, Dr. Melissa Saunders, who's just going to school us in so many things. And it's a long time coming. So thank you for being here.
I'm very grateful to be here and super excited for this conversation. I can tell already it's going to be high level, full of nuggets. So let's bring it.
Yeah, perfect. I want to start the show by asking you a deep question so that we can be in our vulnerability as females and working in this wellness optimization space. Really starting to give the audience an understanding on the hardest thing that you've ever been through and really how that informed your experience and has become one of your greatest gifts.
That's a really good question to ask someone when you sit down with them. Like that's a way to just get right to it, right? Get right to the heart. I love
like it's how you create connection. You talk so much in your work and material about creating connection. I think it's a way to not have to talk about the weather.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, hardest moment, sitting down in my oldest son's kindergarten graduation and being brought to tears and having the women around me pretend like they understood what I was going through because our kids were graduating kindergarten. And that had nothing to do with why I was crying. I was looking up on the stage and I had my two other kids with me, one nursing and one on my lap. And I was the room mother for that class. And I had had a lot of these kids over in our home and I couldn't remember a single one of their names. And it hit real hard when I couldn't remember my own son's name. I got really sick. I got really burnt out and it transpired as encephalitis and meningitis. And that was like the moment, there had been like a lot of signs leading up. And I'm probably like a lot of women. Unfortunately, I got really good at like stuffing them down or telling myself I don't have time, right? I've got a headache, like stuff is feeling off, something's wrong, but like just have more caffeine and push through. And that was my moment. That was a moment where I was like, I'm literally losing my mind. And
so scary. So scary. I can't even imagine.
It was really scary because I didn't know why, I didn't know what, and so I didn't know if it would come back. And I'm like sitting here looking at like really realizing, there were moments where I was like going from one room to another in my home. And when you walk into a room and you forget why you went there, I think we all experienced that, but they were like getting more and more frequent. But like having that realization and looking down at my two kids and then looking at my husband next to me who had like no idea what was going on and no idea how lost I was because I had just hidden it so well. So that was the scariest moment. One of the scariest moments of my life. And it's why I do everything I do. And it's why I found the tools that I found and why I will scream from the mountaintops and I will do whatever it takes to get this message into every woman's hands. Because as a woman who's been in the biohacking sphere for 2 decades and a huge fan of all the tools, these are some of the most powerful. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with you because I love all your stuff on nervous system regulation because at its core, that is how we get back to who we are. And in the age and time where it seems like the goal is to like become someone else and like push through and work hard and to get somewhere, to get to a destination. And in the age and time of knowledge and information, which is honestly more overwhelming than ever, it's about doing less and it's about not becoming someone else, but returning to who we truly are. And the nervous system is our portal back. So I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're so aligned and we can take some deep steps into this talk. And I also just want to like take a minute and honor that you went through that because for anyone who's listening right now, and especially moms, you're looking at the lights of your life and then you're saying, what's going to happen next? And just to see you on the other side of it now is, hopefully a beam of hope for people and also an understanding that like everything is changing even now, right? When it comes to the nervous system, when it comes to our perspective, when it comes to our health and well-being, there is another side to it all. And yeah, so I want to like kind of dive into that piece. I mean, you've talked a lot about like self-care as self-connection. And imagine that's one of the first things you had to start to unpack after that experience happened. And not just in informing your family of this is, hey guys, this stuff, miracle mom, superhero mom is just like right now there's something changing and something going on. And I wonder how, that shift kind of came about.
Yeah, I mean, I really realized that like when I got better, if I got better, and once we found out what I had, once we found out my diagnosis, we knew the exact tools and I'm very fortunate to have access to all of them. But I knew that I needed to change something. I needed to completely change the way that self-care looked because I was outsourcing not only all my power as a female, but I was also outsourcing the ways to quote unquote like take care of myself before taking care of everybody else. And what I mean by that is that now, in addition to like work and taking care of our home alongside my husband and our family and cooking and all the things, like I now had to squeeze in taking care of myself. And the way that I thought that had to look was something that had to be scheduled, something that was outside of my home, or even if it's fortunately a tool that I have in my home, like I'm sitting here next to a hyperbaric chamber, like we have the best of the best in our house we've accumulated over the last 20 years, but still it's time away from my family. And so how could I do that at the end of a workday when I'm just getting home and like my 3 kids need and deserve me and need to eat dinner? And so I needed to come up with a system, and I knew there had to be a way for today's woman who I think is probably feeling the same. Like, are there ways that when I feel like I need to honestly regulate is what's happening, right? When I'm living in high stress, or when I'm coming off like being in the zone all day and I need to get back into my heart, or I need to get back into present time consciousness, or something really shitty just happened and now my kid's in front of me and I need to be in this moment. I can't go lay on the massage table. I can't go lay on my PEMF mat. I can't be like, hang on world, push pause and go do a sauna session. Like, what can I tap into in this moment that's inside of me to help me shift and change my state? And the answer is the nervous system. And it comes through the lens of cycle syncing with our brainwaves, essentially, is what I discovered. And so, you know, the most powerful shift that it has made in my life is it's become both and, right? It's not either or. It's not like either you do these outside tools, the saunas, the chambers, all the stuff that we all love in this community, or the internal regulation, but it's both and, right? There's a place for the macro, the big experience that reminds our nervous system how to regulate, because essentially that's what all these tools are doing. The magic isn't in the tools, the magic is in us. And once we can get in alignment and nervous system regulation, we are who we came here to be. And whatever way you want to look at that, however you want to woo-woo, like the way that I feel is we channel our calling, and our purpose for this life becomes crystal clear. We are pulled into the life that we're here to live. We're not pushing through anything. It's flow versus force. And so can we create opportunities for getting in nervous system regulation on our own in the craziest of moments when we've got like dinner burning on the stove, our 3 kids fighting in the car, and all we've got is us? And yes, you can. You can.
Yeah, and I mean, I go so far as to even say that if you talk about some of the fatal flaws of the biohacking community at large, quote unquote biohacking, people listen to this podcast, many of them love this term, but many people out in the world are like, oh, it's like a confrontational, or it's like feels like male heavy, or any of those things. But I'd even go so far as to say that if we're looking at some of the fatal flaws of the biohacking sphere as it stands sort of within the vernacular today, is that everybody's using a shit ton of tools and nobody's actually self-regulating or understanding the thing I talk about a lot, which is like, how do you walk into a space and be the most regulated person in the room? And that's not about like, I say this all the time, like you're toasting a glass of champagne in a ball gown at the top of the Eiffel Tower moments. It's like when the shit's hitting the fan, when dinner's burning, like you said, how can you stand in the fire and think of that and be like, yo, I got myself. I got my own nervous system, you know?
Right. Yeah. Like anyone can do yoga on a mat, and anyone can reach peak meditation, you know, at the ocean or at a retreat. Like these things that we all do and love. We can all feel incredible in those environments. But can we do it amidst our real lives? That's the goal.
Yeah. And so I want to really unpack your brainwave syncing sort of thought notion and protocol, just to share with people so they can start to get a better understanding of it. And of course, you know, people can start to follow you and download your freebie and everything on it. I think that's really an important way to be able to grok and begin to do these practices. But I want to hear more about the brainwave syncing thing.
Yeah, I want to touch a little on the nervous system, if that's okay first.
Yeah, sure.
And I know your audience is like experts at this because they've
Listen, you
listened
never
to
know
you
what
and-
amazing people are diving in for the very first time right now with you and me, sister. So like, yeah,
Yes.
let's talk nervous system and unpack it a little for people.
For sure. Okay, so our nervous system is basically our hardwiring, and it can be changed at any time, which is the coolest thing ever, right? Like it is completely malleable. And so whenever we want to create a change in our life, we have the ability to do so. Our hardwiring, the programming that basically runs our life, is in a lot of ways dictated through our life experiences, through our mothers, fathers, teachers, preachers, through the things that we watched from the minute we were born. And a lot of science actually shows even in the womb around till the ages of like 8 is what a lot of the research shows. So we are like handed down this programming and wiring, and it's essentially like not our own. And, you know, the nervous system can be retrained, and it does so best through consistency. And so the way that our nervous system usually presents itself is like, how do we react or respond to our environment is a really great like day-to-day example. For instance, if you're someone who is perhaps like a busybody, a high performer, a type A, all into optimization, having a great life, you're probably like an overachiever, a go-go-goer, and perhaps your nervous system is wired pretty like high wound, right? And so what can happen is, you know, even in the best of situations, like if we have an opportunity of quiet or of calm or an ability to kind of come down for the day, we don't always take advantage of that. We don't know how, because our nervous system is trained to be addicted to like the stress state. So what does that look like? In a lot of instances, that'll look like if someone like us is told, or maybe us 10 years ago was told, like, sit and connect with yourself and like get to know who you are and show up as your authentic self, right? And all these things, it's like, you know, if you told me that 10 years ago, if I stopped working during the day and I sat down to read a book or sit in the nothing list, like that is extremely uncomfortable. There's so many voices that play in my head, like, what do you think you're doing? Like, why are you not producing? They can come down to our worth, right? Our entire to-do list can start to play in our heads because our nervous system is craving what's familiar. And if calm and regulation is not familiar, you can have the best of intentions, but your nervous system will pull you out and into the known every single time. Does that make sense? Do you feel like, I know you know what I'm saying. Do you feel like I unpacked that clearly?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. This is like the patterning of our brainwave states for our entire lives. And then I want to just like kind of peel back a layer on like one other thing you talked about, which is like this notion, you know, there's a lot of people who will talk about like past lives and talk about, you know, genetics and talk about inheriting nervous system traits or cellular traits from bloodlines, et cetera. And I think, you know, there's a lot of that can live in sort of the woo, but we also talk about, you know, as mothers transition, as mothers like transfer their genetics, their DNA a bit through 7 generations, we know that sort of scientifically, and how there are other things happening to these people. And I can't go back to 7 generations ago, 5 generations ago, even my grandmother, and really grok what she was doing and what she was going through. And there's things like, you know, my mother moved every year for her whole entire childhood because she was a military family and quite often was overseas and all of this. And I think, you know, as I was growing up and I was having more hypervigilance in my life, some of that was like not necessarily born in me. It was like born actually in my mother. And then that is my mother's energy for her lifetime. And she, you know, in not every day, every way, but it's in her, right? And because generations before us didn't know how to navigate this or speak about this exactly the same way, we land in this place of patterning. And it's not just our patterning, which is a very big part of it, of course, like you mentioned, but it also can be generational and from our parents in that way. And I think all too often people are discarding that, like in the womb or before, you know, other generations before us, like as like a woo, this is the wooniverse, this isn't real, like how would I have that? But it's something that is just at a fundamental level we know to be true.
It's very real. Yeah. And I think this is a conversation blending science and the soul. And it's both, you know, both are really important and both are very real. Yeah. And so this is, you know, to me, these are tips and tools for the woman who has maybe felt disconnected or has maybe felt like when she walks into a room. And instead of first asking, how can she be the most regulated? She might be asking herself questions like, how do these people need me to show up? And so then what masks am I going to wear? Which parts of me am I going to show and which parts of me am I going to hide? This is how we get back to our true self. And I think we're going to be hearing more and more of that in the next few years. You know, I think people are sick of like the filtered highlight reels.
Yeah.
But the question then becomes, okay, how do I get back? Which is a very honest question. It's a very vulnerable process. And for women wanting to get back to who they are, women, especially the moms out there who maybe have no idea even what would it feel like to have fun again? What do you desire in your life? Because maybe no one's asked her for quite a while. This is how you get back. This is how we bridge the gap from like, whatever that younger girl version of you was when you were in your greatest light, you know, like find that age, find that picture and do whatever we can to get back to that. Because that's who we came here to be. And then at some point we either like were so brave and sang in front of a crowd and someone made fun of us and we shut down, or we shined our light and someone told us it was too bright. You know, like at what point did we play small to make the world more comfortable? And this is about getting back to who we were. And so the nervous system, just getting back to that is so cool because, you know, if we can look at these brain waves, and alpha and theta are my favorite, and we'll go into that in a minute. But essentially, every time we walk the path of calm and connection and regulation, and every time we sit down to maybe relax and collect ourselves and we hear that voice saying, how dare you do this? And we choose to sit and flex that muscle, so to speak, instead, we are making that path more flat. We are paving it. And so it's going to become so much easier to access in the times when we need it most. What this will look like over time is that in the middle of your day, when the shit hits the fan, you can literally, in any situation in front of anyone, without having to remove yourself, get quiet for a minute, tap in, ask what you need. You'll get a really loud answer and take action from that place. And this is how we win as today's women. This is how we regulate. This is how we stop. I don't want to say that one. Freaking trying to become someone that the world needs us to be, and stop worrying about disappointing everyone else. And for once in our lives, start worrying about disappointing ourselves. This is how we do it. And so the brain waves are essentially a rhythm that we go through each day. So I think a lot of your audience is probably familiar with cycle syncing, right? Like the menstrual cycle. And as much as we can, living in alignment with what's going on hormonally. We can't like completely match it, right? We can't go into a red tent, most of us, leading up to our period, but like we can know this is not the time to plan a stage speaking spot. This is the time to like binge something on Netflix. So whereas cycle syncing is like a weekly and a monthly rhythm, brain syncing is a daily rhythm. And so every day and essentially in every moment, we have the opportunity to get it right. And we have the opportunity and the tools to have a fresh start. And so I like to explain these brainwaves as like gears in a car. And there's like 4 main gears, kind of 5. And what we want to make sure that we do is that we warm up before we go into the crux of our workday. And so a lot of us spend a lot of our days in gear 3, which is our beta brainwave. Our beta brainwave is activated when we are in like go mode. She is like our 9-to-5 marathon runner, get shit done girl. She is the girl you call when you need to know that like she's not going to let any pieces drop. But she should only work during like the 9-to-5 work hours, which nobody does anymore. She's a marathoner. She needs water breaks. And also what's happening is, you know, anytime that we are looking at our screens, our phones, indoor house lighting, white light, blue light, we are activating and turning on beta. And so you think about, for most of the world, probably not a lot of your audience, but like who's waking up and getting right on their phone? Who maybe has an alarm clock on their phone? Who checks their emails right away? I know I used to. It's part of why I got myself in this situation to get sick. Who, comes out into their family room and turns on the lights? I mean, most people, right? Why wouldn't we? That activates beta. And so when we are running in third gear from the minute our feet touch the ground until late at night, because a lot of people are doing the same thing at the opposite end of the day, right? Okay, I got done with the workday. Let me put my feet up. Let me just chill for a minute. Let me scroll. Let me finish that last email. Let me leave the lights on in my home. Oh crap, why can't I sleep? So we're overrunning gear 3. And I think I've said enough about that, because really the magic lies in gear 1 and 2. And that's the information that I want people to really walk away from this conversation with. So is it okay if I go into gear 1 and 2, or do
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure.
Okay. So again, I just want to highlight, this is how you get back to your intuition. This is how you get back to knowing and remembering what it is that you want and need, not just in the huge sense of the word, like I want a vacation to the Caribbean. This is how you start to know and want what you need in those moments where maybe you're sitting at a table and the conversation just doesn't hit so good anymore. And you sit there and you feel your nervous system telling you all things are not feeling great, but you don't know how to get up, or you don't know how to get out, or you don't know what to say or how to say it to be clear and powerful. This is how that changes. So gear 1 is something called theta. And we magically wake up in theta, and theta is the gateway to our subconscious. So a couple of really cool things happen here. 1, we hear our voice, our intuition very clearly. And 2, anything we do in theta, because it's the gateway to our subconscious, it is like fast track reprogramming. So if you want to change any habits, if you want to essentially change anything in your life, doing it in theta, it's like you get twice as much done in half the time. And I'm all about saving time, especially with a morning routine for everyone, and especially for the moms. So if you've ever heard someone say, I get my best ideas in the shower, that's theta. So theta is the space that allows the channeling to come through. The voice of God, the voice of you, however you want to look at it. But it's the voice of your intuition. And so what I encourage people to do in the morning is to be very aware of their light, because the second you turn on blue or white light, you pull yourself out of theta and you'll miss it completely. So use red light, which your audience knows all about. I don't need to talk about. And number 2, listen to the questions that are coming up in your head. This is not the time, even in healthy morning rituals, where some people might listen to podcasts and things like that. Obviously, we love our podcasts, but that just needs to wait a little bit. This is all about listening to you. So the action step in theta is to listen, and it's only to you. And so tomorrow, what I encourage you to do, all the listeners, is before your eyes even open, just listen and tune in, and listen to that voice that you hear. Listen to the questions that you wake up asking yourself, because here's where you can start to make some really powerful changes. Because a lot of times those questions are going to give you an insight into why you're attracting what you're attracting into your life. Stress, chaos, anxiety. My questions looking back were, how am I going to get it all done? Why me? Why do I have all this stuff to do? How can I get ahead for the day? And what emails do I need to do right now? No wonder I was living in stress. And so there's a really cool piece of the brain. It's called our reticular activating system, and it's essentially a filter. And these questions are basically telling your filter, your lens, what to look for in the world. There is so much sensory information happening at any time. All the things you can hear, see, touch, smell, our brains can't handle it. And so this RAS, it's called for short, or our filter, kind of blocks a lot of sensory information out and only focuses on certain things. We tell that filter what to focus on by the questions that we ask. That's why a gratitude practice works, right? What 5 things are you grateful for? Well, real quick, you're going to find them. This is also why if, all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I'm going to get that fun red car. All of a sudden you see red cars on the highway. Your brain will show you the opportunities for what you're looking at. This is how manifestation works. Mm-hmm. It's not woo-woo, it's neuroscience, literally. Mm-hmm. And so this is where a question audit is the other main action step of Theta. So listen and then do a question audit. So if you're someone who desires like more fun in your life or more freedom or more connection, this is where we have the opportunity to maybe listen to the questions that our brain is asking, like create an awareness of like, wow, it's real busy in there. Like I gotta work on that. But also insert other questions. How can I have fun today? How can I create really authentic connections throughout my entire day today? How can I create more freedom today? Right? And so what happens is going back to training the nervous system and forging that path and making it more familiar, you are laying the groundwork to have the opportunity later in your day to find those little like 2-minute pockets of the reality of like spaces we actually have, and not grab your phone and scroll, or not grab your phone and pull yourself into more beta, but to actually go out and answer that question, right? So like anyone who follows me on socials, you'll see I have a lot of fun. I do a lot of things with my body throughout the day because also, as you know, I've heard you talk about it, the nervous system input 80% through the body, 20% through the brain. So you want to impact how you feel and how regulated you are, move your body, get in your body. And so, you know, in the realities of like, yeah, we don't have time. I think a lot of us say, I don't have time for whatever. We have pockets of time. We've just never really known how to use them. Or when we try to use them to relax, our nervous system is uncomfortable and pulls us back into the known. So I still am very aware of this, and so I can make a different choice. But I still, in the seconds I have between podcasts, I grab my phone, right? Why? Half the time, there's not even a reason. So 90% of the time I catch myself and I'm like, I'm going to go get my body and go have some fun. And I'm going to do a round on my bike and then come back.
Yeah. And there's like so many things in that piece, right? Or the dopaminergic response. And then I just was reading an excerpt from The War of Art yesterday that was all about resistance and when resistance comes up and why it's so important that it comes up and how it sort of speaks to our calling, and that in the overcoming of all of this, right? This is like all the phone shit and all of the like entrepreneur lifestyle and all of the expanding to the next level for each and every one of us. Like all of this is the interplay of it, right? And there's a nervous system tracking underneath that's creating some of that.
Yeah, it's also cool. I mean, our nervous system is our intuition, and she speaks in signals, you know? And so if we can just even get back for the woman maybe listening to this, maybe the one thing for a lot of women to hear is to simply get back tapped into how do you feel, right? Like when you say you're stressed, instead of just saying stressed, how does it feel? And just creating that conversation dialogue with yourself. I feel my chest is tight. I feel like a lot of movement, you know, literally describing it, because again, your nervous system is your intuition and she speaks in signals. And so the more tapped in we can get to our nervous system and how we feel, that is later how you can be in an environment and start to understand, holy shit, this doesn't feel good anymore. I don't know how, but I know this has to change. And it creates, if we're being honest, some uncomfortable realities. This life no longer works for me. Like becoming your best self, getting back to your truest self is not always beautiful. It can be really fucking hard because it can mean relationship changes. It can mean moving. It can mean all the things, but it's so important and so much more beautiful and so much more light and free on the other side. And so it's worth it. Like we're doing hard work all the time. This hard work is worth it.
And it hits differently. This hard work hits differently. Just that, like the ripple effects of this type of hard work for females, for males. I mean, everyone can have moments where they're going to go through these types of things. But the other thing I hear you talking about is like getting into the somatic body more, right? Like having movement, having practices, creating space, right? Which is really about space to feel in your body. And so I want to give like a little reiteration or list to the women that you're speaking to about, you know, what are some of those things that put us in brainwave state 1 and 2 to shift that, right? Besides, like, I want to like actualize advice for people that are like, yes, don't scroll on your phone. And also, what are some other things that we can create?
Yeah, love that. Okay, so for Theta, 2 things. Daydreaming. Daydreaming is Theta. And getting in Theta throughout your day, not just in the morning, is super important. So here's an example. Like think about if you're in the line checking out at the grocery store or whatever. Like, do we even daydream anymore? Do we look up and glance around? Perhaps, again, a lot of your audience does, but most people, if you look, are looking down at their phone. So it's daydreaming. So the moment that we look at something over 5 feet, ideally like 10 feet away from us expansively, we are activating parts of our brain that put us into regulation. So I joke in between, podcasts and meetings and stuff, I go out and I look at the lizards. So like I walk 5 minutes down the road, not even 2 minutes, and I look at the lizards in this field. When we're looking in something in near focus, our computers or our phones, we are hijacking our brain into fight or flight. And if all we do is look expansively, it puts our nervous system into regulation. It activates parasympathetics. So that's daydreaming, and then look at something at a distance. That will get you in theta. Alpha, the next brainwave, maybe I'll start with those things just so people have it. To get in alpha, alpha is our heart space. Alpha is our flow state. Alpha is present time consciousness. So if you've ever had someone with you who's truly with you, you know what that feels like. This one is so important, especially for moms, because the reality is we are pulled for our time in a million different directions, just like everybody. The difference for moms is that we have a beautiful little accountability and partner in front of us much of the time, just begging for us to be with them. And so, I think we can tap into quality over quantity to help reduce some of our mom guilt and shame. And the way that we do that is by having the ability to switch from beta. Remember, we started with her, the marathoner, the go, 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 the work mode, the get shit done, instantly into our hearts. And so alpha is so powerful because it allows that downshift. So if theta is gear 1, alpha is gear 2, and then beta would be 3. The way that you can get into alpha is getting in nature is amazing, really, for theta or alpha. So like if you have the ability, I think most of us do, we just make it harder than it needs to be to get in nature, throughout your day. That's great. Alpha, you can also activate by looking at a flickering flame. So like if sometimes I wake up in the morning and my brain is just like, da, 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 I'm struggling. I literally have a candle behind me right there. This is where I sit in the morning, right behind the spot. It activates mirror neurons in your brain, and it matches the frequency of the flame, matches the brainwave frequency for alpha. So it literally does it for you. It's like the best brainwave hack. And actually, Dr. Patrick Porter taught me that, the founder of BrainTap. He has such a cool brain.
Yeah.
And alpha, by the way, is the state that people meditate for years and years and years to be able to achieve. And we literally wake up in it. We transition from theta right into alpha. So if we just don't put lighting, like traditional lighting or our screens in front of our face, we will get time in alpha. I recommend 5 minutes in each. I mean, ideally longer, but like I get it. The mornings can go really fast. The goal in alpha, where the word for theta is listen, the word for alpha is connect. So this can be connect with you. This can be connect with your body. This can be like light movements and stretching. This can be a nature walk. This can be snuggling. I've gotten like really protective of my morning space and time. And so Jason loves to join me, and Kaya, our daughter, joins me. But I tell them, I just need till 7. Like, give me till 7 and then you can come. And so my theta time comes before, and then 7 is alpha, and we're connected and we're sitting together. Alpha is a great place also to take what you heard in theta and to channel it into something, to journal, right? Mm-hmm. So remember we talked about, you might wake up with these questions that like aren't so fun or aren't so ideal. The intention of replacing it with another question is not to squash it, because hearing our shitty thoughts is just as important, if not more important, than hearing the beautiful ones. We have to give a channel for them so that they can come out and come through. These are the things that wake us up in the middle of the night if we don't create space for them. I truly believe these are the things that come out like in perimenopause and menopause, and women lose their shit because they've never had the opportunity to be like, I don't like this. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not happy here. Like, this is how we meet it where it's at, and we start to make changes. And so take those shitty things you heard. I hated lunch with my friend yesterday. That staff member is driving me crazy. Like, write it. And if you need to, burn it or tear it up. But like, giving your voice a channel is so incredibly important, because again, that is what's going to allow later, when you're in the midst of your day and the craziness and you can't escape to the pump mat, that is what is going to allow you to be like, what is it that I need right now? And she's going to be really freaking loud.
I think some of those voices for many, many like listeners and for women I work with, some of those voices are really less about, I hated lunch with my friend yesterday, and it's much more about negative self-talk. And there is a notion to like, when you start writing down the things that you're saying to yourself, to understand there's a reframe there, and like to kind of see the patterning in the way that you speak to yourself. So I think that's an important shout out as well for females. You know, of course, men and all humans do this, but I see it mostly with women.
Yeah. And, you know, I have a book coming out later next year. But one of the things I talk about in that book is, we can call that the voice of our ego, right? A lot of people say like that. I don't know what you believe, but like some people, just for simplicity's sake, that's the voice of the ego, whatever you want to call it. I think, what if we like took that voice that's talking to us poorly and envisioned her as the voice of our best friend, the voice of intuition, this voice that for thousands of years is the voice that guided every woman in her life. Like, this is how women used to function, right? They were very tapped into their intuition. They were guided by cycles in nature and hormonally. And so you think about if this voice was like a best friend, and she was the woman that you went to for everything. You asked her advice, you listened to her, and then all of a sudden you stopped showing up. Just like how over the past few decades, we women stopped showing up. We stopped listening to her. We stopped leaning on her, and we listened to everything outside of us, and we outsourced our power. Well, how do you think she's going to show up? She's going to be sad. She's going to be mad. She's going to be angry. Like, think about that best friend that you maybe betrayed. Like, she's hurt. And so her languaging is going to be a little like F you. But if we can like sit with her and rekindle, I'm sorry I left you. I'm sorry I haven't listened to you my whole life. I'm sorry, like, I trust you. You've got some really important things to say. So like, let's work together and let me carve out space for me time. And let's start this conversation again. Like, what would happen, right? She is our force, whatever you want to call it. Like, she is there. And so I think, you know, when I was writing the book, I was like, this is a little outside of the container of normal. You know, I think there's a lot of, even in the spiritual world, it's like overpowering our ego. I don't want to overpower her. That's power from outside. I want to power within. And I want to create that bridge of that conversation, because there's a lot there. We just have to get through the shit first. Like, she deserves us to sit through that, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I look at a lot of this through like the Schwartz IFS lens. You know, it's like all the parts of the whole. Right? We're trying to get back to wholeness and love. The whole thing is like, I just don't want to have this part of me anymore. Like, I want to stop. You can want to stop doing something, but it's like, I want to get rid of this part of me. It's just like not an option. It's probably been in your life and in your body and in your soul for so long that it's like, how do you just give it a seat at the table? And yeah, so I think just, you know, whether that's helpful or not for listeners in the IFS landscape, but it's just, I think that there's a really strong notion to what you're saying as inclusionary, as like giving every part of you, including whether it's your nervous system, your intuition, whatever we call it, you're giving them a voice, and then you're actually like interacting and integrating it into the whole that is you, right? The whole meat suit, vessel, soul, all of you.
Yeah. And think about for any woman, I mean, I think a lot of women relate to this. Like, if growing up you showed negative emotions and like love was withdrawn from you, you know, like, can we have the ability to allow ourselves to be present or be worthy in all of the yuck, right? Like, we don't have to hate these parts of us, just like you just said. They're all so beautiful. But I know I didn't feel like my loved ones would sit with me if I wasn't happy and bright, you know, like, I recognize how much that's played a role in my life and how much I used to feel the need to hide these negative emotions. So it's like giving myself a second chance. Like, you're safe here. I'll sit with you through this. And like, it's really not that bad, you know? Mm-hmm. And so much beauty comes on the other side, and the only way out is through. And, you know, when we let ourselves feel the depths of the hard emotions, then we truly get the highs of the beautiful ones. And there's always going to be that contrast, and there's always going to be that, it's like a heartbeat. It's contraction, expansion, right? We can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
And so I think we've gotten really good at like showing the shiny and loving the shiny, but like, can we just as equally love the dark?
I mean, it's hard to, but yeah.
It's
Gotta
easier to
figure
say
it
this
out.
on a podcast, right? But this is where I think community and friendships and authenticity is important. Like when I have conversations and people say, "How are you?" Like you're going to know right away. I'm not going to be like, "I'm great and I'm doing these 10 things." Like I saw a friend this morning I haven't seen in a month and I was like, "Bleh. Here's
Yeah.
here's all the real." Because that's human, that's how we connect, and I think that's important. So when you're going through the shadows, you can voice note your friend, you can meet her for coffee, whatever it is, or like hire someone to have someone to remind you it's okay, there is another side. And I support you going through. Here's a poem, like read this, or here's a song, or I'll sit with you. This is where community is so important. And we create community within ourselves first because we've got to know who we are in order to be able to show up authentically because it can feel really scary at first.
Yeah, and I think also to pick the people who are your community, right? Like there's just I always like to have people in my community that like have a lot of discourse and opposite opinions in some ways, but also I think it's important to know who you like, know thyself so they can like surround yourself with the people that you're going to thrive with and that you want to grow with, right? That's like such a big choice to make of the people who are going to stick around because we've all learned the hard way at some point or another where there's just like, and this is no judgment on people, but there's always every so often there's always a friend that's like, I'm tapping out. Like you can't, they can't hold the container for you. And I learned that a lot in the last year or so of my life. I went through lots of anxiety and depression and suicidal ideation, and just it was a whole different ballgame to unpack. As I was unpacking trauma in my childhood and my nervous system, and like as a coach, it's what I'm going to continue to do. Right? Is like try to see where my superpowers are and where my shadows are, because every piece of us has both. Mm-hmm. And there are friends that stick around, and there are friends that can't go there with you, and it's never a judgment. It's just I think the better we get at picking the people who are going to walk through the fire with us, or they're also going to walk through the light with us, the better that we all are supported. Because typically if you're choosing someone who can go through what you are going through with you, then that you can go through what they're going through with them. And then it sort of feels like, equal players in some way. Not that there's a competition, just it feels like there's like an equality in the way that we can serve each other in community.
Yeah, 100%. It's a true friend, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love that you share that. And I mean, I know your listeners know this, but how fortunate, because you could so easily hide that part of you, but like, who does that serve? And I think
it serves no one, because I was like going through this, like I'm a coach, I have every tool in the book. And then I'm like, why is it not working? Why is it not working? Why is it not working? And thankfully I have like a circle of other coaches that are like, very specialized. And I have people that I could just, put all my things on to say, I'm really, really stuck. And it took a minute for me to do that. Cause I think we all have this thing in like podcasts and coaching land. And like, I get on stages and talk about all the things I'm an expert in. And then it's like, this is someone who's like in the nervous system realm, and like, thank goodness that the universe or whatever the powers that be put this in my path, because somebody along the way, some entity, some God, something knew that I was going to need to have a better understanding of this in order to be able to get to the other side. And that's the miracle, right? Like, it's like, don't stop until the miracle, and things show up in our path so that we can utilize them, which is like a lot of why you've unpacked all these things for you, since having that moment, watching your children on stage, and then supporting so many other females in this landscape to be able to say, okay, what comes next? How do we do this? Yeah. And I think I want to just to like continue on the trajectory with all the things that are happening, your book coming out and all of that. I think I want to kind of just lean into where you're seeing the holdbacks from people who are working with these tools. Like where are the stuck points? What are the things that we need to call out? I talk a lot about like the biggest epidemic we're facing is like loneliness and anxiety right now, especially with the landscape being like AI driven and all those things coming into the phrase. But where are you seeing the holdbacks and the stuck points and some of the people that you're working with, and what are the ways to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, great question. You're such a good podcaster. It's aiming for perfection and not realizing the power of practice. So this isn't about doing it perfectly, and it's going to feel like you're doing it wrong when you're doing it right. And so we practice as we sit in the morning in Theta and Alpha so that we can be ready for the game, our day, when stuff gets crazy. And every time we do it, we have an opportunity in real time to practice, but it's okay for it to be messy. What we're looking for is an awareness. There's so much power in just being aware. wow, I just finished that work thing and look at me grabbing my phone. Okay, in this moment, I have a choice. And I might choose to go on my phone. I might choose, you know what, I just heard this lady say this thing about the thing, and look at me doing it. Well, I'm going to open it and I'm going to scroll and screw her, and I guess that doesn't work for me. No, you won because you created a pause and you made a choice. And so you're no longer victim to your life, and you no longer are wondering why you feel the way you feel. You have the power to choose, and that means you're doing it right. And so many women, I think we are looking for like this dramatic change and this dramatic, I feel different, and this dramatic, I worked so hard and so I did it right. This is the easy, subtlety, small things and the micro dosing, the micro moments of connection that will in turn translate into, I got it all done. And like, I didn't snap. I got it all done. And like, I'm not talking to myself like shit at the end of the day like I normally do. I got it all done and like, I feel pretty good. What was that? Was it my coffee? Maybe it was my shirt. Maybe it was the new hair. No, it was you. That's what this does.
There's connectivity in this conversation too about the mountains of females I see that are over giving and over serving and over sharing and over, and not oversharing and say in a bad way, right? But like just really in hypervigilance. And sometimes it's like, you know, when you have rose-colored glasses on, everything looks pink. But it's so much of this thing that we're doing in the biohacking space about unpacking the female physiology and understanding hormone profiles and how we work in the world and nervous system states. And that's for humans of all kinds, but specifically for women is just how we've underserved ourselves in this massive course correction that's going on right now. That isn't necessarily feminism, by the way, gentlemen that are listening to this podcast, because people are like, are you a feminist? You're such a feminist. It's like, no, I'm pro female physiology and understanding it enough that I can optimize its well-being. Not just because I am a female, which of course it's going to land pretty solidly for you and me because we live in these bodies, but because we just still don't know. We still don't know so many things about what's going to serve us as women best. And there's surely things that you will know about being a mother that will serve mothers best, like that you can share. And I also think that there's just things that fall to the wayside that it's like, I can't tell women to lift heavy shit or strength train. And I will continue to tell them every single day. But I also am like, are we still in a place where people are like, I don't know what's going on. I can't quite do X, or my joints hurt here, or this is happening, or whatever. And it's like, you just did a beautiful job of unpacking why movement can be so important to getting the nervous system to shift state and to really tap into your intuition. And I'm like, I continue to be the beacon of the woman who's, I'm at the gym in the morning with my 2 or 3 girlfriends here. And I just like walk over and I take the lighter weight out of their hand and I'm like, pick up this, no, pick up that, no, pick up this. And they're like, oh, you know, but it's like, these are things that are tried and true. And I think they stack on each other. Yeah. And I don't think lifting a weight is like a fancy biohacking tool. I think it's like paramount, right? It's like getting out in nature, like you mentioned. Yeah. So what am I missing from the momdom? Because I think that there's a modicum of like time constraint that is beyond what I can even imagine. I mean, I watched my sister do it and all of that, but in the space of like mothers who are listening to this and saying, I love that you're like, maybe they're like, damn that woman, Dr. Melissa Saunders, I'm scrolling. And then it's like, yeah, well, you just too late. You already got the juice, right? You already got the medicine, which is you thought about it. Yeah. Yeah. So are there any other like another like thing that you would tell moms who are listening who are just like, I'm overextended. Where do I start? Right. It feels like this morning routine is a really big piece of it. Is there something that you're doing or talking to women about doing in the evening, or the way that they connect with their partner, whether, you know, before, after work, or in the house, that is like enrolling the rest of the family in this? Because it seems to me it would be easier if there's other people bought and sold, like you talked about your husband and your kid coming in and sharing time with you.
Yeah.
And congratulations, you have boundaries in the morning. I love that.
Took a while.
Yeah.
You know, ultimately, I just want to zoom out and simplify it, because I think every woman needs simplicity, especially the moms. And it just comes down to, it's not selfish. This is about being self-with. And it does start with you first. And so, yes, the connection with your husband is important. And yes, the connection with your children is important. But like the most important thing is to start with you. And it's not selfish. And I know that to be true because I literally saw what happened if I didn't take care of myself. Mm-hmm. You not only can't take care of anyone anymore, you become a burden, essentially. And I think for some of us, we need to weight it that heavily. And so this is about you getting back to you. And what I hope that people walk away from this conversation with is that this doesn't need to be a 1 hour thing. This literally is, the magic is in the micro moments. And the biggest thing to do is to start to train your nervous system, to start to flex that muscle of connection 2 minutes throughout the day, to start to pause before you grab your phone and notice that you're asking who needs me before you even know if anyone is. You are creating the story and then wondering why we feel the way we feel. So the power is in the awareness. And like Kristin just said, like, already gotten in your head and you already won the second that you realize what you're doing. That's it. And so keep doing that and the rest will take care of itself.
There's a little bit more talk now, and I really like to speak to people about like playfulness. And I think you have a really big element of this in your day to day. So like, is there a piece of your day or a suggestion that you have about building more playfulness back into the space of people's day to day lives and tapping in with their younger selves and all the things? Like, good example.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a conversation around inner child connection. It's a conversation around the stat that I just lightly shared that Kristin, you share so eloquently on a lot of your platform. The way that we feel is 80% input. It's 80% what we're doing with our bodies dictates the way that our nervous system feels. So there's a lot of power in movement. And how did you used to like to move? Right? You know, yes, lifting the heavy weights, so important. I need to get back to doing more of that. And also, what did you used to love? I was a gymnast, and for so long, I'm 44. And for so long, I was like, I let that go. I let it die, right? How many women out there are dancers or wanted to sing, you know, and just let that dream die? Like, get back to that.
Handstand, sister. You and your handstands.
Me and my handstands. I mean, I am the best version of myself when I go play handstands. And about once a week, I get a macro experience. I get a 1 hour workout. All the rest of the progress that you're seeing, if anyone's following me, where I'm actually getting it, I'm kicking up, that is happening in between podcasts when I kick up on the wall for 2 minutes. Like, that is what is building that. And one quick little story I want to share, you know, I spoke on stage in Tennessee a month ago or something, and I shared my story of going back to gymnastics. And I got off stage and this woman was like, I always wanted to be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader and like, I'm too short. And I let that die and it broke my heart. And I was like, listen, okay, so maybe you won't go be a Dallas cheerleader now. Like maybe that ship has sailed. But like, what if you got a Dallas Cowboy uniform? And what if you put it on in your house? And what if you did your emails in that uniform? Like, what if we embodied the energy of fun? What if we just started to ask ourselves, like, what do I want? And then find the way that can fit into our lives. And this woman, it has to be the favorite message I've ever gotten. She sent me a picture of her in a Dallas Cowboy uniform. She was like, this is amazing.
So great.
So, like, you think about when she goes through her day in the privacy of her home, I'm sure, and does her day that way. And then her family comes home from school, from work, like, they are seeing a lit up version of her, as is the world. Like, we owe it not only to ourselves, but we owe it to the world. So I love play. You know, if people want to message and ask me questions like, I used to do this, how do I get back? Those are my favorite kinds of conversations. Molly, your friend Molly, we have a combined friend. Molly and I love to talk about our bikes.
We used to dress up. Like the Dallas Cowboy cheerleader thing to me is like, it feels funny as an adult, but the reality is like, we dressed up all the time. This is why I go to Burning Man. I wear two costumes a day. And I'm like, cool, this is like fully express me. Like, this is what you're going to get whether you like it or not. Because that's sort of like an environment. There's an accepted circle of that environment there, but it's like we can do that in the world. It's like Kelly Starrett always talks about nobody can skip down the road, which by the way is great for your ankles, great for mobility, great for health, great for cardio. Nobody can skip down the road and also be sad. Like you can't skip and be sad. Like true. It's like you feel, when I skip in the gym here, there's always like a couple like heavy lifting weight guys or something. And I'm like, you know, they see what is going on. They're joyful. They don't want to make the face like they think it's ridiculous, but it's like, it brings joy to other people too, to be like, oh, there's someone skipping around the room. This is ridiculous.
It does. I have become like, I don't know if it's because I'm in my 40s or if I just realize how much it serves me. Like I literally, when I morning walk, I mean, I am blasting my headphones. I am dancing. I am like moving all over. And I love seeing people light up and like kind of chuckle, you know? Because even the people that are like, oh my God, how could she? You know, they're going home and they're like, could I? Could
Yeah,
I
you
in my
joined a
own
format.
version?
Like, yeah, let's absolutely. And I think there's a ton of women that are just like whatever kind. I don't care if it's pole dance or house dance or like you did in a club or whatever. Like everybody can like shake a little booty in the morning to some music or what have you. And there were many years of my life where I didn't put music on in the morning and sort of wondered why at some point, why did that stop? Right. It was like an ex partner who liked it quiet in the morning or whatever the deal was. But it's like then you get to get back to you and your intuition, which is exactly kind of where we started this whole thing.
Yeah. And that's real. That conversation, I think, is really important. Where are we shrinking ourselves because of other people included in our home and in our environment? And sometimes that's the biggest test. Can I be me with my partner? Right. And those are like some of the hard conversations. And those are some of the really important ones. And to be honest, my husband and I had a lot of really hard conversations over the last few years. But like, I'm me and he gets me now, you know? And so like we said at the beginning, like it's worth it on the other side. And this is the work that like feeds you back, right?
Yeah, I think it's the work we're here to do in the world as females and the way that we like help evolve this planet and our families and communities. I think that there's such a big piece of that. I want to just ask you about like the forward future planning version of you, which is like, you know, when you dream of like who Be Inspired Mama becomes in the next 3 to 5 years and the trajectory of everything that's happening, like where does it go? What's something that's wildly hopeful for you that you're like, I believe in a future where both yourself and other women can do X?
It's funny because my big dreams, I usually keep kind of quiet. I'm like a quiet, I'll make it happen.
All right, I'll sign an NDA. No,
but I'm going to share.
Okay, great.
Right?
Okay, great. Yeah.
My dream that's like a little bit me-centric, but then I'll share how it impacts the world, hopefully, is like I'm stepping into my dream as being a Hay House author. And I hope that, you know, this book does really well because it resonates with so many women. I hope that this is a book that a woman reads and passes it on to a friend, a sister. I just finished the cover design and it is like, it is not like your normal cover. And it makes me so happy. Like you literally look at it and you can't help but giggle and laugh. It is so inappropriately childlike and playful. It's like sparkles all over it. And I envision like a woman on the beach reading her boring self-help book and then seeing this and being like, oh, what's that one? That's what I want. Yeah. Because this reignites you with you. And so, you know, I hope for Hay House to be like, write more, like write more, share this message more, like build a deck. Like we need this in every woman's hands. And I hope what happens is I hope that this, you know, these brainwaves become, it's not my tool or my conversation. I hope that this becomes a conversation that women have with each other. You know, I see a movement in the hormonal space where women are starting to understand estrogen, progesterone. Like I can explain it, even though I'm not a doctor. Like that's what I want with brainwaves, because this is our nervous system, and understanding it, like we've said, is the portal back to you, to authentically you, to the you that you came here to be. And when we spend more time in that space, you are rewarded. Source, God, however you want to look at it, like you will channel, you will be crystal clear what your calling is. And that makes life a lot more fun. So that's my dream. Like I want to Tinkerbell, like light everyone up. I want to look back on my life and just like picture all these women like light on in their body. And then I just kind of saunter off. Like it's not me, it's the message. And I want this to go worldwide.
Yeah, I love that. I think you're very heavily already on your way. Well, thank you so much for sharing this vision and all of this insight and expertise that you have in this space. I think it's so important for people to listen to, and I want them to follow you and continue to know, like, and trust you like I do. And so where can people find you in all the iterations of you on the digital platforms? Yes, for those women who have a very short attention span and like social media, I play a lot on Instagram. So I show a lot of like the behind the scenes as well as like here's the science and the resources. So it's kind of the blend of both. My website has a lot of my free resources on it. So that's drmelissasaunders.com. There's a tab called resources. And the one that we spoke a lot about today is regulate your rhythm. There's also one called the connection code. And that's kind of how you get back to like remembering what you love and how to make time for it. And then that is the name of the book that will be out with Hay House later this year, The Connection Code. Cool. Well, we're very excited for that. Very excited. So I'll keep sharing all those things in the show notes, and then please go and check out Dr. Melissa's work. And thank you so much for being here and just having this like sister from another mister conversation with me. I feel like you and I could hang out for hours and talk about nervous system and do handstands together. Like that's all I want to do with you now is just like handstands.
Yes, and I want to watch your Burning Man. It's like one of those dreams that I don't even admit that one day I want to go to, but I'm so overwhelmed and I don't know what to do. So I'll pick your brain at some point when I'm brave enough.
Okay, great. Yeah, whenever you're ready, I'm happy to take you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kristin.
Yeah, thanks for being here.